In 9 days, in a stadium outside New York, 26 men will win the biggest prize in sport. Cameras from every corner of the planet will be pointed at the moment one of them lifts the World Cup over his head. It is, by most measures, the most watched thing a human being can do. Here is what that man will be paid for it. His federation will collect $50 million from FIFA. And after that money is divided between the association, the staff, and the squad, his personal share, if he plays for one of the richer nations, will land somewhere around $400,000. That sounds like a lot until you hold it next to the right number. Because if the man lifting that trophy happens to be Kylian Mbappé, and France are, right now, 1 game from the final, then $400,000 is less than he earns in a single week at his club. The most valuable moment in sport pays the winner less than his ordinary Tuesday. So where does all the money actually go? Follow the money. Start with the scale, because the scale is genuinely staggering. The 2026 World Cup is the largest and most lucrative in history. For the first time, 48 nations spread across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And FIFA has told its own members what it expects this 4-year cycle to bring in. Somewhere around $13 billion, roughly $8.9 billion of it from this tournament alone. Broadcasting deals worth close to $4 billion. Sponsorship near $2 billion. It is the single biggest payday in the 90-year history of the organization. So when FIFA announced the prize money, it announced it like a gift. A record. $871 million to be shared among the 48 teams. About 15% more than Qatar 4 years ago. Every nation guaranteed at least $12.5 million just for showing up. And the champion, a $50 million performance prize, the largest ever. Read those numbers quickly and the story writes itself. Footballers becoming rich beyond reason for a month's work. That's the story most people carry in their heads. Now watch it come apart, because the first thing to understand is who FIFA actually writes the check to. Not the players. FIFA pays the federation, the National Football Association. The $50 million for winning the World Cup does not land in 26 bank accounts. It lands in one, the governing body of the winning country. What the players get after that is not FIFA's decision at all. It's a negotiation, and that negotiation is where the money quietly disappears. Hold that thought, the check goes to the association, not the athlete, because everything that feels unfair from here follows from that one structural fact. So the 50 million arrives at, say, the French Federation, or the English, or the Argentine. What happens next? The federation takes its cut first. These are the bodies that run the entire sport in a country. Grassroots, youth academies, referees, the women's game, the offices. And a large slice of any World Cup windfall is kept for exactly that, operations and development. For the wealthy footballing nations, the players typically end up with somewhere between 50 and 70% of the prize money. The rest stays with the institution. Then whatever is set aside for the squad gets divided. And a World Cup squad is 26 players, plus the manager, plus the coaching staff, plus, by long tradition, everyone from the physios to the kit staff who share in a bonus pool. So the players' half of 50 million, split 24 plus ways, is how you arrive at a figure in the region of $300,000 to $400,000 per man for winning the entire tournament. And that's before the taxman, who treats a World Cup bonus like any other income. Now, is $300,000 or $400,000 a bad payday? For almost anyone alive, no. But these are not almost anyone. These are the best paid athletes on earth, and that is the whole point of this story. Consider the counterfactual we opened with. A player like Mbappé earns a reported 600,000 euros, around $685,000 every week at Real Madrid. His World Cup winning bonus would be less than 7 days of his club salary. For the superstars, the greatest achievement in the sport is financially a rounding error against the job they do the other 11 months of the year. And this gap has a history of getting ugly. Squads have fought their own federations over the split for decades, teams threatening to strike on the eve of tournaments, public rows over who gets what. The tension is structural, the association holds the check, the players hold the leverage, and every 4 years they argue over a pool that, for the biggest names, barely moves the needle. Even the fairness stories reveal the smallness of the sums. The United States Federation has agreed to split its World Cup prize money equally between its men's and women's teams, a genuinely landmark equal pay arrangement. But notice what that tells you. We are dividing the same modest pot more ways, not enlarging it. The prize money is small enough that how you slice it becomes the headline. So step back. The tournament generates around $13 billion. FIFA pays out $871 million of it to the teams, call it 6 or 7%. The winning federation keeps a chunk of its $50 million. The players split what's left 26 ways. By the time the money reaches the man actually lifting the trophy, we are talking about a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. The prize, you can see, is almost the least interesting money in the building, which raises the obvious question. If the prize is this small, why does anyone care about winning it? And the answer is the whole reason this video exists. Because the real money was never in the prize pool. It's in what winning does to you. Think about what a World Cup actually is, from a player's point of view. It is the single largest audience he will ever perform in front of. Billions of people, one match, his face at the center of it. That is not a sporting event. That is the most valuable advertising slot on the planet, and he is the product being advertised. Win it, and the value doesn't arrive as a FIFA check. It arrives everywhere else. Boot deals and sponsorship contracts get rewritten upward. Image rights, the money a player earns from his own name and face, climb. A defining tournament can add tens of millions to a player's transfer value, which is the number that actually governs a footballer's wealth, because it sets the wages and the fees for years afterward. None of that shows up in the prize money. All of it is triggered by the trophy. This is why the $400,000 bonus is a red herring. For the elite player, the World Cup is not a job he gets paid to do. It's a stage he pays nothing to stand on and walks off with his entire market value repriced. The prize is trivial precisely because the prize was never the point. And now follow that same logic all the way up, because it explains FIFA too. FIFA is a non-profit. It does not exist to hoard cash. It exists to reinvest in football and, not incidentally, in itself. The $871 million it pays the teams is not generosity. It's the cost of goods. It is what FIFA spends to stage the spectacle that generates the other $12 billion. The prize money is a line item in the budget of a machine that keeps the vast majority of what it makes. So the same trick operates at both ends of the pitch. The player treats the prize as irrelevant because his payoff is the brand uplift the trophy unlocks. FIFA treats the prize as a cost because its payoff is the $13 billion tournament the players make possible. Everyone at the top of this pyramid has quietly agreed that the visible money, the prize, is the least important money in the room. The only people for whom the prize money is the whole story are the ones at the bottom. The smaller nations, where $12.5 million for qualifying genuinely transforms a federation. The players from poorer leagues, for whom a World Cup bonus is life-changing in a way it simply isn't for a man on $600,000 a week. The prize money matters enormously, just not to the people holding the trophy. Here's the pattern, and it reaches well beyond football. We are trained to watch the number that's announced, the prize. The headline figure presented on a stage, designed to be reported. And almost every time, the announced number is the decoy. The real money is moving somewhere quieter, in what the visible event enables, not in what it hands out. The World Cup is the purest example you will ever see. The trophy lift is engineered to look like the climax of a financial story. The reward, the payday, the moment everyone gets rich. It is nothing of the kind. It's a marketing asset dressed as a prize. Its value to a superstar isn't the check. It's the repricing of everything he's worth. Its value to FIFA isn't the cost of the check. It's the spectacle that sells the broadcast rights. The one group treating the prize as the actual prize is the group with the least power to change it. So the next time an organization makes a great show of what it's paying out, a prize, a bonus, a headline salary, a donation, ask the boring question underneath. Not, how big is the number they're showing me, but what does the thing they're showing me generate, and who keeps that? The announced figure is almost always the smallest number in the story. The money you're meant to look at is rarely the money that matters. 26 men will lift that trophy in 9 days. The check will be a rounding error. The repricing will last the rest of their careers. And FIFA, having paid out its 6%, will bank the rest and start counting down to the next one. The prize was never the point, the tournament was. And no organization on earth has monetized a tournament like FIFA. If you want the full anatomy of that machine, the most profitable non-profit in the world, that story is one click away. Follow the money.